retirement system, right? I mean, we don't have a way to take money out of the retirement system ourselves and give a bonus. We have to bring that directly out of the budget, right?
Yeah, the money is spread.
Okay, I know it's spread over every department and everything else, but what it's going to be total, $30 million or so? Total. I'm sorry.
It's a total of $2.3 million total statewide.
Just $2.3 million state funds for all retirees, for all ERS employees, is going to get a 3% bonus. 2.3. Have we ever historically funded that ourselves, or is it, I think, 9 or 10, they had 8. I don't mind asking a question, Mr. Chairman.
No, you can ask, but you might want to use the microphone.
Mr. Chairman, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Historically, when we've given a one-time check, did that come out of the retirement system, or did the state funds make that up? I understand. Okay, it's one-time payment, but we did that in FY10, but I thought that came out of the retirement system itself as a one-time check, a one-time ad hoc COA, not state funds going in and making that up, because this is our state dollars, taxpayer funds going directly into the retirement system to write a one-time check. I'm afraid we're setting a bad precedent by doing that, Mr. Chairman.
Duly noted.
Duly noted. Is it not true, I'm afraid, that we're doing that?
We hope.
Yeah, I put my earring back in.
Any more questions?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chair would entertain a motion.
Second.
We have a motion for due pass and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Duly noted again. Thank you. We'll adjourn there.
Thank you.
All right, let's get this meeting started. The General Government Subcommittee, thank you all for being here. Let's start with our changes that we have. I am on line 4.1.4, which is audits. 4.1.4. We agree to utilizing the existing funds. On the next line, which is 4.1.5, we are redirecting the existing funds to perform the local education audits. The last one for audits is 4.1.6, and we are reducing the other funds of $300,000 to reflect projected receipts. Our next change is 12.5.1, which is under administrative services. 12.5.1, the House has decided against the statewide changes. On 12.6.1, we will be utilizing the existing funds for the educators' professional liability insurance program. Our next agency is driver services on 21.2.6. We're going to eliminate those one-time funds for a commercial driver's license pad in West Georgia. That's already been done. The next agency is Department of Labor. It's 32.3.4. We're going to utilize the existing state funds for the collection of administrative assessments. Our next agency is Department of Natural Resources, which is 34.3.4. We're going to reduce those funds. Moving on to 34.7.4. Also under Natural Resources, we're going to provide funds for raising sunken vessels, which is causing navigational hazards in Lake Lanier. On down to Department of Revenue, which is 42.6.1. This change reflects the reduced payments to the retirement of local tax officials. And then our last changes are in the Secretary of State's office, which is 43.1.1. Under corporations, we are annualizing the changes for the amended. Also under 43.4.6 for office administration, the same thing. And lastly, on 43.6.3 for securities, the same, meeting projected expenditures on those three. Any questions from the members? Motion do pass. We have a second? We have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Those opposed, like sign. All right, the budget passes. Thank you very much, everyone. Meeting adjourned.
Good morning, everyone. Members of the Public Safety Subcommittee on Appropriations, I want to thank all of you for being here this morning. I want to extend a personal thanks to all the members of this committee. This being my first rodeo as chairman, I appreciate the committee's cooperation. I appreciate the committee's involvement and input in this process. I know we had some long meetings and we had some repeats in terms of hearing from folks, but I thought that was important to try to get a full understanding of the information we needed to make the decisions we have to make. I also appreciate the commissioners giving their time, their staff, participate in this process. Oftentimes we don't always get what we want through a budget process, but it's nevertheless the dialogue that's important, and I appreciate that very much. So, members of the committee, thank you very much for your help on this, both the 16 amended and the 17 full budget. With that, I'll go through the track sheet. We do have quite a bit of changes here to go through. You have a track sheet in front of you for 2017. We'll start with the Court of Appeals, Section 5. The first one is 5.1.1. I'll note for the committee that there is there's a 3% COLA adjustment for the judges included in this amount that you see here. That deals with a compression issue between the Superior Court and the Court of Appeals, as well as you'll find that in the Supreme Court as well. If you look down at line 5.1.7, there's a House reduction in one-time funds for the conversion of the microfilm searchable PDF format. This money was already programmed into our amended budget, so we've cut that out of the 17 budget. The other change at line 5.1.9 was increased funds for one central staff attorney as opposed to the request for two. 5.1.11, we declined to add a deputy court administrator. 5.1.14, we also declined to approve the step increase for the attorney salary scale. 5.1.15, we did increase the funds for the cost of one assistant reporter position with the Supreme Court, and as the committee knows, there's shared positions between the Supreme Court and the editorial staff and the court reporters that put out the decisions, so we did annualize those numbers there. On your track sheet, turning to the Judicial Council, we just approved the program changes there. That's section 6.1. Section 6.3, you'll see there that in 6.3.1, there was a merit-based adjustment. They requested a 1% to catch up from last year. We also included in the committee's recommendation an additional 3% to keep instead with the 3% statewide increase, merit-based increase. In section, excuse me. That was what I was afraid of. Let me pull this aside. In section 6.3.4, we declined to increase funds for the media curriculum design position. In section 6.4, Judicial Council, we also said no at section 6.4.8 to create a statewide repository for probate court records. We did reflect that we transferred funds at 6.4.11. Those funds will be transferred over to DHS for the 10 parent accountability coordinators, court coordinators. 6.4.13, we reduced funds to reflect a change in the employer's contribution rate in the judicial retirement system, and that's going to be seen throughout. We're just bringing those numbers up to the 17 fiscal year numbers. 6.4.14, we reduced the funds for the implementation of the statewide e-portal. There is a 20% residual there for ongoing maintenance. Turning to section 7 in juvenile courts, section 7.2, grants to counties for juvenile courts. In 7.2.1, we said no to the increase in juvenile court salaries. We requested a bill and some confirmation as to how the money was going to be distributed. There's no bill forthcoming this year, so we'll have to look at it next year. In section 8 for prosecuting attorneys, on section 8. Section 8.2.8, We increased funds for personal services for recruitment, retention, and career advancement for assistant district attorneys. This is a 3% increase above the merit-based statewide increase. 8.2.9, we also funded we disagreed with funding the assistant district attorneys for the accountability of courts for Cordele, Houston, Middle, Paulding, Rome, and Toombs County. And 8.2.10, I just note there are 6 newly established accountability courts. We approved that. On Section 9, Superior Courts, 9.1.3, there was a request to restore a position for project coordinator position. We said no to that. And 9.2.3, there was a request to promote recruitment and retention of qualified staff. We said no as well. You'll note we did approve the one additional judgeship for Clayton Circuit at 9.3.7. And 9.3.8, we reduced the number of circuits that have created accountability courts from 9 requested to 6, which are all newly established and certified courts. 9.3.10, there was a request for a step increase in salaries for 22 secretaries. The House committee has said no. Section 10, the Supreme Court, will note at 10.1.1, there is a 3% COLA adjustment there for the justices. In 10.1.7, there was an adjustment downward there to reflect a reduction in one justice's per diem. 10.1.8, there was a request for a procurement and facilities position. The House said no. 10.1.9, there was one administrative assistant position that was requested. The House has said no to that. At 10.1.10, there was one assistant position for the clerk's office, and the House has agreed with that. 10.1.11, we had funds to increase salary adjustments for law assistants. This subcommittee has said no. In 10.1.13, there's an increased funds for security costs. This is a one-time cost increase, and we've agreed with that. 10.1.14, also a one-time cost for repairs and furniture replacement, which we've agreed to. Community supervision, section 18, line 18.1.11, there was a reduction in funds to reflect administrative efficiencies of $100,000. And then there's also a reduction at 18.2.13 to annualize efficiencies in the operating budget. In section 18.5.6, there was a request for 5 community coordinators to expand the Georgia Prison Reentry Initiative. That was approved by the subcommittee thus far. Under section 19, which is corrections, the jail subsidy has been reduced by $45,000 down to $5,000 at 19.1.1. Departmental administration, at line 19.2.10, we've included language for accountability with respect to the education programs that are being utilized and installed by the Department of Corrections. We've asked for reports on the success of those educational programs over the course of the next 2 years. And let's see. That moves us through Department of Corrections. There were no changes in Department of Defense. Skip over. In section 30, Georgia Bureau of Investigation, I just note that in line 30.3.5, there was a request for 5 toxicology scientists. We've agreed to that. Then we've taken a one-time reduction in funds from line 30.4.6 and applied that to forensic scientific services at line 30.3.6 to create 4 science positions. No other changes in GBI. In Department of Juvenile Justice, section 31, There were no changes there. Department of Law, there were no changes, Section 33. Section 35, pardons and paroles, there were no changes there. Public Defenders Council, Section 37. At line 37.2.12 is a reflective of a savings from the purchase of new vehicles that's anticipated from the bond purchase. And then 37.2.13, there is a 3% increase for recruitment, retention, and career advancement. That is in addition to the 3% statewide merit-based increase. Let's see. Public Safety, Section 39, there was a, at 39.6.4, we've increased the funds for one compliance and evaluation position at $70,000, and then we're advising the Firefighter Standards and Training Council to utilize existing funds for their IT and operating cost services. And I believe that is all the changes. Let me just double check, make sure. Yes, that's all the changes that we had out of our Public Safety Committee. And if there are any questions, I'll take questions on that. Let's get a motion and a second, and then we'll have some discussion.
Second.
All right, so I have a motion do pass. I have by Floor Leader Rogers. I have a second by Ms. Ballinger. Let's have discussion. Any discussion from members of the committee? All right, seeing no discussion. All those in favor of approving the recommended budget on public safety, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Like sign. Hearing none, we are done. Thank you for your time, and we are adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good job.
It's hard to follow. I got two different track sheets.
I know.
I have
Well, and I felt like kind of like, hey.
Good job. Yeah, thanks. Very good. Sorry, we couldn't do stuff. Good job. He balanced it out. Thank you. Would you grab? Hey, Bill. Can you grab Al? Will you grab Al and Stacy? Will you grab Al and Stacy for me? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. What was that? Oh, you're kidding me. I heard the truck's going. Are you out of there? Are you okay? I mean, have you heard that? Is everybody all right?
You have to really manhandle these things, don't you? If I got his number, I should. I'll call him.
He's in the insurance committee too. I'll sit right here next to Dudgeon.
I got it.
Anything,
You have some tracking sheets for us, Ms. Bailey?
I think Martha has them. Martha.
Chuck, we need you in appropriations. We're up here.
Martha, do you have the tracking sheets to everybody?
Okay.
morning, Mark.
He's heading over here from insurance.
Okay,
right
we got to. All right, let's see.
Anything,
He's coming, Joseph. Go on. He's coming. Just go on, okay?
any,
I can get the text, they're waiting on me.
Okay.
your mic's on.
All right.
Yeah, your mic's on.
Uh-huh.
Don't tell them, see.
Anything, anything out of the ordinary? Anything
That's good.
Get on there, Eric.
He's gonna be at 6 o'clock here today.
How you doing? Want to?
If we could just wait just a few minutes, the vice chairman is coming. He had a bill over in insurance and he's on his way.
Here, you want vice chairman to sit right here?
Well, he can sit on the end. Well, he can sit. It doesn't matter. He doesn't care.
Who's
Chuck Estridge. I mean, has everybody got a tracking sheet? And he's gonna need a new tracking sheet, Martha. Chuck's on his way. Okay, thank you.
I'm in appropriations. That's okay. Yeah, we'll be through in about 15 minutes. Okay, I'll call you. All right, bye.
Should I go ahead and start?
No, I mean, you're a little bit ahead of schedule, right? It's almost at 15. Here it is. It's good.
I know, it's a busy time, busy time. I want to show you something. If it has an S in here, that means it's throughout the whole budget. It's not there.
Okay.
Thank you so much for coming. I just want to say before we start, we're going to find some things that are common throughout the budget, and I'll go over there one time, but if they're common throughout the budget, I'm not going to mention them every time. And they're indicated if you have a tracking sheet by a little S in front of the description. And so I'm just going to mention them one time, unless y'all would like for me to go over them each time. All right, thank you. Department of Agriculture, 13.1.2, Athens Tifton Veterinarian Laboratory, increased operation funding by $200,000. This has not been done in several years. The contract has not been updated in years. And with all the biotech that's going on, it's very expensive, so we're increasing it by $200,000. The first common thing you're going to find out is reflects an adjustment in the merit system assessment, 13.2.2, and you're going to find that throughout the document. So I will not be going over that again. The next change that you're going to find out throughout the document is 13.3.6, to provide for an increase in the employer's share of the employee's retirement system contribution rate to provide a one-time benefit adjustment of 3% to the retired state employees. That's the COLA we've heard so much about, and this is a one-time funding. It will not, you will not see this every year, but this is a one-time funding. Market and promotion, well, there's no changes in market and promotion or the diagnostic lab. The next change is in soil and water, 13.7.7. Reduce personnel service to reflect operations efficiencies and eliminate 10 positions, $100,000. This is carried over from last year when we did not see a reduction in the personal services, and it's $150,000. The next change is in Department of Community Affairs, 16.2.4. Increased funds for environmental projects, $50,000. The next change you'll see is 16.11.4. Increase funds for regional economic business assistance grants. We said no. It was a 10 million and we said no. The next time you'll see a change will be 16.12.2, payments to the Georgia Environmental Finance Authority, increase funds to Georgia Rural Water Association, $25,000. The next change is 16.12.3, increase funds for the grants for the Resource Conservation and Development Districts, $55,000. The next change you'll see is payment to One Georgia Authority, 16.14.2, establish a new contract with the Georgia Forest Commission for $450,000 for the reading, maintenance, and management of all aspects of the Georgia Water Meeting Program. And there's no money involved since it's a grant with One Georgia. It's just language only. Economic development. The next change you'll see is 23.9.8. Increase funding for tourism and market promotion, $1 million. And we found out for each dollar we put in this, we're getting 7 back, so we felt like it was a good investment. The next change you'll see is for 23.9.9. Georgia Historical Society. This is for the historical markers, and they do a wonderful job, and we're having a lot of historical monuments missing, and we've got to restore that, and it's $100,000. The next change you'll see is Georgia, is the Forestry Commission, 16.1.7. And this is the same language you saw a few minutes ago, and it's to establish a new contract with the One Georgia Authority for $450,000 for the reading, maintenance, and management of all aspects of the Agriculture Water Meeting Program. There are no changes in transportation. And I think that's it. Do y'all see any other changes I might have overlooked?
Second.
All in favor say yes.
Yes.
All opposed? Thank you, and thank y'all so much for the work y'all have done.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good work. I'm trusting you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. What do you,
You
just,
do all the work. We just get the credit for it.
Hey, Pete, what's going on? So I finally made it. I'm sorry. I said, let me at least show up one time over here.
Martha? Oh,
And that's a good thing.
yeah, we're through.
I'm glad I got to vote at least and
Good.
say yes.
I knew it was a loud
Let me do
voice
something.
coming up
Let me
there.
contribute something, even if it's a small way. Yeah, but I've been listening. I knew there was no controversy, so I knew you were holding it together.
Oh, it might be. I hate to even go out there and say that.
Turn it on.
I'll send you a rose next Valentine's.
Okay.
That's a good program.
It really is a great program.
Those are the biggest changes.
Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. It's nice to see all of you here early this morning and help us do this. I want to tell you, first of all, I'm so grateful for each of you. You know that this committee appreciates the work that all of you do. And this is a challenging part of the budget, without a doubt. There's a lot of flexibility in it at times, but I'm very proud of the work that the committee and Chairman England and our House Budget Office, and Roma particularly, have done to help us help everybody as much as we can. So let's start off. First of all, in behavioral health, line item 15.1.4. This is one-time funding for Highland River CSB Home Again pilot program to serve residents in Region 1. This is an area that's been particularly hit with the challenges of foster care and children out of home and some of the difficulties that come with that. So it will Highland River serves 11 counties in Region 1 and works with families and children to address mental health challenges. This will begin to help with that and could be a pilot, hopefully, for our whole state one day. The next item we will look at is under Human Services. Item 28.5.4, under Child Support Services, to increase funds for 10 Parent Aid Accountability Court Coordinator positions. This is moved from the Judicial Council budget to align positions with the correct program. It currently funds 18 positions. It has formerly been under Chairman Welch's part of the budget, but it will now be here. The next is item 28.6.9, to provide funds to the Court-Appointed Special Advocates, CASA, to enhance statewide capacity for the program. The volunteers represent half of the children in foster care, and certainly we do wish to increase and help them as much as we can. The next is 28.8.6, to provide funds to the Division of Family and Children's Services, DFACS, Special Assistant Attorney Generals, the SAGs. This group particularly has been out of line, I would say, with how they are reimbursed. At this point, they are making $52.50 an hour, where some of our other agency SAGs make, on average, $142 an hour. And there's no doubt that this is such an important group. We're going to increase it this time. Our ask is for $5 per hour increase to all of the SAGs, and that's a $1.5 million increase. The next is in Elder Community Living Services, 28.10.7, to provide funds to transition 125 seniors from nursing homes into community settings. Currently, 750 seniors are eligible and waiting to move, and this will be $750,000 to help that group. The next is section 28.11.4, to provide additional funds for Meals on Wheels and senior center nutrition programs. This is intended to go to the individuals preparing the food, actually. That has been a particular group that we've not kept up with. So it's $254,909. The next will be out of home care, 28.15.5, to provide funds for a 1.5 provider rate increase for child caring institutions, child placing agencies, foster parents, and relatives. They've only had one rate increase of 3% in the last 10 years. This will particularly help with foster care utilization growth, estimated at about 18% in fiscal year 17. And that amount will be about 100, it's a little over $4 million, so it's going to be very helpful, hopefully, there. Next, we'll look at DHS, I believe. Did I get, no, I'm sorry, I missed one, I'm so sorry. 28.21.1, Family Connection, very important. We're going to once again increase the funds by $1,000 to each county, moving it from $46,000 to $47,000 for their individual amounts. That will be $159,000. Now, Human Services. 28.23.6. This is a move without dollars, but with language. Encourage the Georgia Vocational Rehabilitation Agency to create third-party cooperative arrangements with the Technical College System of Georgia to maximize financial assistance for vocational rehab clients. And I know many of you were there this summer when we particularly worked on advancing education and workforce opportunities for those with developmental disabilities. There's a 4-to-1 federal match for each state dollar transferred into these programs. So we are going to begin that conversation and see what we can do there. Next is veterans. 48.1.7 and 48.4.7. Both of these come without additional dollars, but encourage the department to use existing funds. The first in 48.1.7 will be for the Vietnam War Certificate Honor Initiative. We support it, but want them to use existing funding. And then also in 48.4.7 to use those existing funds also for a Women's Veteran Services Coordinator position. And those are the changes that we have right now. Are there any questions from the committee members? Thank you. We have a motion to pass and a second. Any further discussion? Thank you. All in favor, please support with an aye. And any opposed with like sign. Well, I thank you so much. And as I said earlier, I want to thank each of you who are actually in the trenches every day, providing the help that we need you to do. And we look forward to the continuing conversation. And before we know it, we'll be back here in January, once again looking to try to help you even more. Thank you so much. We are adjourned.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to call the meeting to order. Thank you all for coming. Good morning. Before we go over the budget recommendations, I want to take just a couple of minutes and make a few comments and let you know that how much we appreciate the members of this subcommittee. They put in a lot of hours to come up with these budget recommendations, and I just want to say thank you to them publicly, and also to Tara, our budget analyst, who put in many hours to help us and been a tremendous help, as well as Martha and the other folks over in the budget office. We just want to say thank you publicly. We heard a lot of input from many of you out there. We listened and we tried as best we could to address as many of your concerns as we could in this budget. Now, it's not to say we have done everything that everybody wanted us to do, but we have made an effort to try to address as much as we could. So having said that, I'm going to go ahead and run through the budget, and I'm going to just hit the changes that we have had. Y'all have had your tracking sheets in the budget. You've had an opportunity to study this for some time, so I'm going to go ahead and move through this. And we have rules coming up at 9, so we want to be sure we don't get the chairman of the Rules Committee mad with us for overtime here. Under 17.1.9 and 1.10, this has to do with some funds that have been recaptured from contracts that we didn't need, and how the Department of Audits will be taking over community health's auditing. 1.11, this is a transfer from another area. It looks like an ad here, but I'll show you where it's just transferred up in a minute. 1.12 and 1.13 are both language. This just simply directs where we transfer from the Community Care Services Program for any additional savings that could go to slots. And then in 1.13, this is just authorizing the department to apply for the Section 1115 waivers if they need them. This will just give them some flexibility in the way they administer the programs. 17.4.4 eliminates some one-time funding from the 16 budget. Same with 4.5, and then 4.6 is an addition to for startup funds for 2 federally qualified healthcare centers. 4.7 is an addition for the Champions for Children's program. Many of you have talked to us about this. Is for those children who do not qualify for the Katie Beckett program. 4.8 is language, simply using existing funds to continue to operate the Rural Stabilization Committee that's been ongoing from last year. $7.2, this is just a reflects an adjustment for the growth in the Medicaid based on the projected need. There's a slight change there just because of later information, more updated, better numbers. 7.3 is a slight change there in the funds to, for the increase in the Medicare Part D clawback payment we make each year. 7.8 is a cut there where we recouped some funds that were in the budget last year for the change of ownerships for some of the nursing homes. All of that money was not needed, so we're able to take that back and capture that. 7.9, this is an increase funding for the nursing home cost report. Is based upon the 2012 cost report with a 3% inflation addition. 7.10, this increases funds for the independent care waivers personal support. This basically would move those personal support hourly rates up to the same as the CCSP and the SOURCE program. 7.11, this increases funds for the reimbursement for the adult day health centers. It's a 5% increase. They have not had an increase since 1998. 7.12, this is a slight increase there in payments. Same thing with them. It's been for the OTs and PTs. It's been quite a while since they've had a rate increase. 7.13, this is another example of that with the, this is the language that allows the department to evaluate if long-term acute care hospitals can be enrolled in Medicaid in such a way that there would be no cost involved with that, and report back. The 7.14, this is the transfer that I mentioned earlier, that this went up to 17.1.11. 17.8.1, this is the growth factor for the Medicaid on projected needs. There's a change there because of later information in needs. 17.8.6, this is provide funds to increase reimbursement rates for select primary care and OBGYN codes to 100% of the 2014 Medicare levels. 8.7, this is a slight increase in our ambulance service for the advanced life support transport codes. This is like your strokes and your heart attacks and that sort of thing. They have not had an increase in quite some time as well. Language in 8.8, this just requiring the CMOs to pass on the full amount of the rate increases to the providers. 8.9, this is where we had some discussions about ADHD. This would be, the department would evaluate a cost-saving study to see if better diagnosis of this would not be cost-effective and do better at treating those who need some help. 10.7, this is language also. This authorizes a pilot program for local school systems. This is under for their health care coverage for non-certificated people with the ability of the school system to opt back into the state health plan afterwards without penalty if they so choose. 10.8 is just recognizing that the state is continuing to fund its OPEB liabilities. 17.11.3 and 17.12.2, that's just a transfer of those funds to the Physicians Workforce Board to help them be able to better prepare the reports that they're required to do every year that are necessary to track the providers around the state. 17.12.3, this is it's going to be moved over to 17.15.4. I'm going to talk about that in just a second. Let's see here. 17.12.4, this is an add to Memorial Health Center in Savannah. After Grady, that's the second busiest level 1 trauma center in the state. We only have 2 emergency medicine residency programs in the state. One's in Augusta and one's in Atlanta. And they want to determine if they can set up a program there, and they're willing to put their own money to match with this to make that study happen and hopefully be able to establish a program there that will benefit the state. 17.15.2, this is the restoration of the dental loan repayment program that we had last year. That's been very well received. 15.3, this provides fund for a loan repayment program for physicians' assistants and nurse practitioners who agree to serve in rural and underserved areas. They would be able to be awarded $10,000 a year for up to 4 years to help offset their student debt. This 15.4, this goes back to the earlier, this is the Colquitt Regional Medical Center. That is $100,000 for them to do their recruitment program down there for their residency program, and with this they'll be able to draw down a couple $100,000 in federal funds to go with that. They ought to be very pleased that that's going to happen down there for them. 17.18.3, just a small add. This is for additional rent that they have been relocated into some state buildings, and the building authority wants their rent paid. Public health, 38.1.4. This restores the cut that was there for the Georgia Cancer Information website. The 38.1.5, this is replacing federal funds lost for the Women's Health Program. 38.1.6, provide funds for the Positive Alternatives for Pregnancy and Parenting Grant Program. 38.3.7, this is funds for an ongoing contract to maintain the telehealth equipment in each county across the state. 38.5.3, this is increased funding for the Georgia Poison Control Center because of the additional workload they have all across this state. They serve all 159 counties. 38.5.4, this provides fund for the Georgia Poison Center for a telephone-based stroke support system that would reach out across the state to try to help people determine how best to treat a stroke patient and where they should be taken for the best results. 38.7.5, this is restoring that cut to the Georgia Comprehensive Sickle Cell Center. And then 38.7.6, this is funding for the Medical College for their Sickle Cell Center there in Augusta, dealing with the complexities of the disease and the increased demands on their work there. 38.12.5, there's a change there. This would be funding the 6th year. If you'll remember, there was going to be a 7-year phase-in over the whole harmless money for the counties in public health. This will be funding the 6th year and be 1 year left. And that, let's see. Okay, I want to back up. I went through here pretty quickly. I didn't emphasize this, but this is something that I think all of us need to be really pleased about. We had a lot of people who came and talked to us about trying to do something for the providers around the state who provided care, especially the primary care. And I mentioned to you earlier 17.8.6. This is $26 million to help bring those codes up to 100% of the Medicare level. This is something that's going to affect everybody all across this state. It's going to help some of our providers stay in business, and it's going to help those who need health care have access to get it. So I think we can all be proud about that, and I think once you see how this is going to help, you'll be pleased that we were able to do that. Well, that completes my explanation. Do we have any questions from the committee? We have a motion, second, do pass. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much.